Hello, everybody. I'm Kerry,
And I'm Daphne.
and welcome to Ask Kerry. So, so
It's episode
number
number
five.
5.
Okay, so this does not look a whole lot like like Europe. We just got back 2 days ago, and we had every intention to do this episode in the Netherlands, but we were so busy,
Very busy.
flatteringly so. We just didn't have a chance, and what an amazing trip. I mean, it was just unforgettable. Every time we have a chance to go someplace and do lectures and provide clinics and meet people, it gives me a chance to learn just as much as I'm trying to teach. It's just wonderful. And this trip was 2 weeks of a whirlwind of just special memories and a lot of
And
people
a
to
lot
thank.
of friendships made. It
A
was
lot of
pretty
friendships
nice.
made. Yeah, I mean, so before we even get started on this new question that we have, I think we really need to say thank you to several people. There's so many people to thank, but um, Niski, we couldn't thank you enough. Manon, can't thank you enough. Armin, Walter, yes, I'm not saying the name right, but
Nishka.
it's just I can't help it. It's just we'll call it the American slang. That's your new pet name. So, but it was really special, and everyone who came out to the lectures and spent the weekends, at the clinic, we had great weather for that. It was phenomenal.
It was perfect weather.
Just appreciate the support. It really does mean a lot, and it makes us going away and doing these things just so special and certainly well worth it. So, and along with not only that, I had a multitude. I can't even. I think I lost count of how many private sessions for people who couldn't get into the clinic.
Right?
Had private sessions, which is
And
what.
how fun was that?
That was awesome.
Meeting each individual person and their horses or their horse. I learned so much about horses and
And their horses like coffee.
I made a great little clip with that. Thank
Yeah,
you, Claudia, for sharing your horses
yeah.
with us.
Now it was great, and it's great because you get a chance to um, meet the individuals that own the horses, and I love to match. My evaluation process is matches to the
And it
person's
was fun to
goals.
be able to go to some of their locations
Hmm.
and see them in their habitat. It's,
And their particular environment,
yeah,
and to
yeah, that
learn
was
what
nice.
and the thing about it is you get a chance to match a person's goals and evaluate the horse and from a sensory standpoint and a herd structure
Hmm.
standpoint and create a psychological profile that can help them guide them. Hey, can this horse, from everything from pre-training, which one of my horses should go into training, to I want to build a stronger relationship. And the bottom line is it's all about building a stronger relationship with your horse
Hmm.
because everything follows suit. The discipline always comes after the horse. The ribbons come after the horse. None of those things matter. Building that relationship, and that's the passion for me, is helping people build a stronger relationship with your horses so that you can have that special bond. And it's not a ghost, if you can hear that. It's
They
our
can't.
cat.
They can't hear
Oh, okay.
it.
If you see in our episodes, we have cats that like to make cameos. So anyway, but yeah, so many people to thank, and it was really, really wonderful. And we look forward to returning and
Hmm.
expanding that. And special thanks to Natasha doing a story on the event
Oh
and
my
their
gosh,
work
right.
for
Yeah.
the bitten cat.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I don't know when that's going to be out, but a lot of exciting things in the works, and we're going to
Hmm.
continue to move forward with that. So that brings us to this
To
episode.
Yes, a fabulous question was sent in. This is from Amy from Western Australia. Um, and it is, Hi, Carrie and Daphne. I am loving the show. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Amy, for that. I find it very helpful, so thank you both. I thought I would send in a question to see if I might get picked. And Amy, yes, you
You're
did.
picked.
Thank you. I continue to learn more about herd dynamics and sensory soundness through your teachings, which has been quite fascinating journey for me for sure. It has inspired me to consider the use of equipment and how it affects the horse. I was wondering what your thoughts are on how this can affect a horse's natural psychology. Thank you in advance, Amy.
Well, that's a very
Great
good question.
question.
Yeah, and interestingly, we had
Quite a few
quite a few
questions.
questions relative to
Yeah.
that because part of the lecture was on sensory soundness
Mm-hmm.
and sensory mapping, and on that morning's lecture, I had some questions about that.
And it was neat because we saw a lot of different types of harnesses. Am I saying that right? And
uh,
bits. Like, I'm
yes,
sorry.
halters
Altars.
and bridles
I'm
and
learning.
yes, and bits and different types of equipment
Yeah,
that
yeah.
people
So that was neat.
that's relative to the discipline. And so it is a good question, because anytime any form of sensory depriving, and I call it sensory depriving because a piece of equipment can do that, it will affect the sensory system and how a horse is viewing their environment. You have to understand that the sensory system's primary goal and primary job is to blend the physical world with the emotional horse. So it takes the environment and brings it inside the horse's psyche. It's that nexus right there. And that's how the horse communicates with the natural environment and their environment around them. When we minimize or apply certain things to the horse's sensory system, we are interrupting that communication. And so the effects can be wide ranging. No matter what, you're going to shift the emotional energy and the emotional energy distribution. You're going to make the horse very often more internalized. You're going to shrink the horse's environmental awareness and make it more physical. And when we do that, we circumvent their psychological awareness around their environment and their ability to outsource to other horses or to us. And we're now funneling that through a physical contact, which is not an emotional context. Now we're making it a physical trigger. So it can affect, to the degree it affects the horse. I've seen varying degrees. Sometimes it can cause additional stresses. So the goal, even with the best intentions, can cause accumulated stress. So it's always important to keep track of that. And
Is that like when they put different bits in their mouth?
just
Is that
various things. The easiest one to discuss is the use of blinkers and
oh right.
how that changes the visual field, because that's the something that everyone's who under, is familiar with horses has probably seen that, even if you don't own a horse. If you watch racing or whatever disciplines are, carriage, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that will affect. So now you are funneling the energy into a certain spot. So when we do that, we are skipping over part of the communication the horse has with the environment, and we have to become stewards of that. We have to help fill that gap, and hence I always talk about, as we know, be the bridge, not the block, and that's bridging the gap between the natural herd dynamic and the domesticated world. It's also bridging the gap in the sensory system where it is interrupted. As a herd animal, obviously, they have a high degree of mutual dependencies in and out of the herd structure, depending on where they are on the herd structure, as we talked about actually in the lecture. And so the use of equipment can affect different horses differently, but it will have an effect. It will have an effect. And I'm always reminding my clients that I'm not going to be one to say I'm against use of equipment. I'm against the misuse of equipment.
Right, because the blinders for the carriage,
Blinkers.
yeah, blinkers for the carriage horses, like with the Amish, some horses would need that so that they're not so sensitive on a
Yes,
particular
yes.
side of them for when the cars and the people are passing them,
Yes, and the thing
right?
of it is that's
Yeah,
true. But if you bring up the word need. If you think that your horse does need something like that, then they're missing something else along the way.
right.
And I like to go in reverse and evaluate the horse fundamentally upon who they are. Again, the operating system, as we have in our logo, that runs the machine, all these gears. Somewhere in there is a gap in that sequence,
Right.
and to just put a piece of equipment on it, put a band-aid on it, now we're taking it from a psychological or emotional or communication interruption the horse has that we need to understand, and just putting a band-aid on it, trying to bridge it with a thing. And when we do that, we make it a physical thing. We take an emotional that could be an emotional issue or a communication problem the horse is having that we just need to understand further, and we're just putting a physical thing on it. Now we've made it a physical thing. And so when we make it a physical thing, again, we're removing the horse's capacity to understand and to be aware of their environment. This can affect several things like depth perception,
Mm-hmm.
which is in and out and up and down, and just all kinds of things. It can affect how a horse learns. When you have equipment on a horse, you're asking the horse to learn through a physical process. So they need to respond to a physical trigger or to the sensation of that. as opposed to leading with your emotions, your intentions before the physical cue. We're relying on equipment, and when we rely on equipment, it can be a slippery slope. And so I, of course, advocate uh, minimizing that whenever possible, and really just understanding how your horse is communicating with the world around them. And that will help you communicate better with them.
And that's what we did a lot of in this past tour was mapping out the horse and
Mm-hmm.
where they are gliding or moving through
Moving
the
to the environment,
right.
yes, yes, because that's, to me, I mean, it's fundamental. We have to go back to the basics. We have to understand. We know what the horse is, but how much do we understand about who that horse is? Even though we may have a really good idea of these things, but how does it really work? What are their natural tendencies, their behavior patterns? The emotional part of the horse drives that physical output and fluency. And we want to get to the point where our horses are, their physical motion is moving through our emotional intention. And that is blocked, that is interrupted when we use equipment. Now we've added something else to the equation. So I think you have to be really careful because it's a very fine line between being good and being not so good. So just be responsible with it, or better yet, I always say have your horse checked out to see what exactly the reason is. Because if you're putting equipment on something that's a emotional issue or a trauma issue from the past, or they're just having a communication issue, they're not going to learn properly because now you've interrupted their ability to learn properly through their natural functions. And we've taken control of that. So if you're going to take control of that, you have to be accountable for the results of that. So
Wow.
yes, so I could go on and on and on. So I'm fresh off of lecturing and
Right.
teaching, so I'm still on that high, and I
You
can't.
always give me so much to process. I'm only 2 years in the learning of all of the terminology and being around the horses, and I'm enjoying every bit of it and excited to keep learning and
Yeah,
exploring.
and I think this is the time I need to say publicly I couldn't do it without you,
Thank
because Daphne was such a real trooper. You know, when I had 2 and 3 sessions in addition to the event
you.
to fill in with the horses, Daphne films them, because the process for me is I will obviously the magic of video. You can send me your videos, but when I'm with a horse, I evaluate, I start the process, but we record videos and I take them back and I analyze those videos for even more in-depth information to provide for the clients. And that wouldn't be possible without you. So
And
not only
then
do I love you as my wife, I appreciate you as my partner in crime here as we continue to help people make a difference. So thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you.
It's fun, a lot of fun, and it's even um, interesting when you allow me to be thrown to the wolves, as I would say. You leave me in a pasture where you know that there's a few little loose horses, and
I said, ah, you'll be okay.
well, I learned how to make friends with them, and I think it was maybe William is what Claudia called the one. He came over and checked out my hat and made friends with me,
Well, it's
and
funny because I was evaluating, and I looked over and I thought, well, I was checking on you. Believe me, I had my eye on you, but you were just smiling, and everything was copacetic. I could tell that you know those old boys were very curious with you and saying hi. And I looked over at one time, and Daff was like kind of sandwiched in. I was like, "Oh, honey," but you were smiling, and the horses were smiling, so
I
it's
just
all good.
slowly meandered out and looked back, and it was all good.
You're getting your feet
I'm
wet.
learning how I can communicate with our cats and our birds very, very well. And for me, being around an animal that's so much bigger than I am, yeah, it can be. It's a little intimidating because I don't know how to.
Well, you're looking at the size
Right.
of the
So
horse, right?
because of that, it's learning how to um, be be that touch. I guess it's that touch that I do
Well,
with the
and
cats.
that's it. And you're learning, and this is important, and this is how we'll close this episode. I think a little bit off of the question topic, but as we talked about in the clinics, you have to remember that a horse has a space around them. You don't have to physically touch the horse to touch the horse or be touched by the horse. There is a space around that horse that is their actual space of
It's
awareness.
just like us. We have our own
Yeah,
personal bubble.
and we don't always have to
Right.
cross that threshold to have a communicated relationship with our horses. So on that note, we'll close it off for this time around. And thanks, Amy, for writing in, and thanks to everyone in Europe who came out to support. And we look forward to return, as we said. We also look forward to having a surprise. I do want to say that if you get a chance, check out Nishka's Facebook page, because she's a phenomenal trainer. She's
She really is.
outstanding trail loading, and just watching her work and having a chance to work together on some different training concepts together behind the scenes was just really wonderful, and look forward to more of that. And we'll be looking forward to having her here in the States to do some mutual and joint events
I'm excited by
in the
that.
not too
Yeah.
far future. So we'll keep you posted about that.
Yeah.
Keep the questions coming.
Yeah. If you do have a question, please feel free to put it in the comments below, or to email me at daphne@sensorysoundness.com, and I'd be happy to see if we can get Kerry to answer it.
You can ask Kerry. So until next time, always remember, be the bridge
and not the block.
Thank you.
Thank you.